David here, and welcome to another edition of Wild Goose Adventures. If you remember the last edition, we were dealing with floods and the Fraser Island breakthrough. Having spent a week or so out at Fraser Island, the rubbish there and the wash off from the floods around Brisbane has been terrible. Lots of people have done it tough and lots of people have lost everything in those floods. Unfortunately, what they've lost has been washed up on Fraser Island. The Bachelor people's first law is the land always comes first. And right now, because of the floods that have occurred, the land needs us and needs a hand. So I'm off to go give it a hand. Ocean Addicts have kindly lent me their boat, and I went and picked up a couple of big trolleys from BCF, and so our next mission is to get out to Riverheads. We're going to launch the boat and we're going to zip across to Kingfisher Bay with the trolleys. Let's go pick up some rubbish. It was overwhelming to see how much debris had washed onto the beach. I contacted National Parks and Wildlife Services, who themselves were overwhelmed by the destruction washed onto the eastern shore, and they said they just didn't have the necessary resources to collect any more. Turned then to Maritime Services, who said it wasn't in their jurisdiction to help either. So after a call out, I realised that this was my time. It was my responsibility to make it happen. My plan was to be out there on the high tide and take as much as I could manage. That meant a pretty bouncy trip over. Well, we've made it over here okay. And it is absolutely beautiful. As I've often said, this place is so protected and southerly, and it's just the place to be. You don't want to be out there. Anyway, the good old boat made it over here fine. It's a little bit bouncy, but all good. So let's go and start with this cleanup. So the cleanup continues. Just come along the top of the beach and then the tide take me back. So far, we've collected a bit of rubbish, not to mention stingrays below my feet and a tyre that I can float back with me. So we're about halfway back, but I know there's a couple of places up here that I have put a whole heap of rubbish above the tide line. So if you're going to be interested to see how we go, we'll fill up the boat and then let's head off to Kingfisher Bay to see if they'll take it. You know, my heart bleeds for all these people. All this rubbish is not rubbish. It's people's possessions and people's houses and belongings that have washed away in the floods in Brisbane. So it's sad. It's really sad. And this is not in any way a slight against them. I feel for them. It's terribly sorry. Unfortunately, on the eastern shore, there's a lot more rubbish. Here on this side, on the western shore, you can't have a car. There's no car, there's no available way of getting here except by boat, and so that's what I'm doing. Just using the good boat from Ocean Addicts to fill it up and take whatever rubbish I can and get rid of it for them. So here we are at Kingfisher Bay, back at the resort. I'm going to do the sunset bar, and I'm going to see if I can get some of this rubbish to their bins behind them. With the debris safely deposited for collection and the tyre and pallets ready to be picked up by staff, it was time for me to head back. People tell me it's everybody else's responsibility who have a vested interest in the place, but I see it as the right thing to do, and after all, I'm emotionally invested in the place too, so I'm happy to go and do my bit for a place I love so much. Here we are back. Well, I'm back and all is well. Fraser Island, the western shore, is looking a little cleaner from my efforts. It was a line in the sand that I had to cross, and I'm so proud to have done it. It was insignificant compared to what was on the other side, but it was important to me that I got out there and did it, and I'm pretty happy that I could give back a little bit to Paradise Gari. I can hold my head high. That's it for this episode of Wild Goose Adventures. I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, smooth sailing.